History is filled with great names, kings, queens, generals, and emperors, but one name stands apart, echoing through time: Alexander. More than 2 millennia after his death, his story feels like myth. He became king at 20, led armies across continents, and toppled the mightiest empire of his age. Alexander was a military genius, a visionary, and a man whose ambition knew no bounds. His journey is one of triumph and tragedy, reshaping the world forever. This is the story of Alexander the Great, the benchmark for every ambitious leader who followed. Let's begin our journey, back to the kingdom that gave birth to this extraordinary figure. Our story begins in Pella, Macedonia, 356 BC, where Alexander was born into a world of power and intrigue. His father, King Philip II, was transforming Macedonia into a military powerhouse. His mother, Olympias, claimed descent from Achilles. Alexander was raised on tales of gods and heroes, destined for greatness. Philip hired Aristotle to educate him, instilling a love of knowledge and a passion for Homer's Iliad. Alexander's upbringing, warrior father, mystical mother, philosopher tutor, created a fiercely competitive, intelligent, and driven young man. The stage was set for the rise of a conqueror. Even as a boy, Alexander's courage was legendary. When no one could tame the wild stallion Bucephalus, Alexander noticed the horse feared its own shadow. He calmly turned Bucephalus toward the sun, mounted him, and rode with ease, astonishing the court. His father Philip declared, "You must find a kingdom equal to your ambition. Macedonia is too small for you." This was more than a boy taming a horse. It was a symbol of intelligence, observation, and courage. Bucephalus became Alexander's loyal companion for decades, riding into legend together. Alexander's ability to see what others missed would define his life. The world was about to witness his ambition unleashed. In 336 BC, King Philip was assassinated, plunging Macedonia into chaos. At just 20, Alexander seized the throne, eliminating rivals with ruthless speed. The Greek city-states, sensing weakness, rebelled. Alexander responded with a lightning campaign, destroying Thebes as a warning. The message was clear: defiance meant destruction. Greece fell silent, and Alexander's authority was absolute. The boy king had proven himself as formidable as his father. With his rule secure, Alexander turned his gaze east to the Persian Empire. The world's greatest adventure was about to begin. The age of Alexander had arrived. The world would never be the same. In 334 BC, Alexander crossed into Asia with 40,000 men, a force drawn from every corner of his young empire. They marched with hope, ambition, and the weight of history on their shoulders, knowing they were about to challenge the greatest power the world had ever seen. Their opponent was the vast Persian Empire, a realm stretching from the Mediterranean to the mountains of India, ruled by the mighty king Darius III. The Persians had wealth, numbers, and centuries of dominance behind them. At the Granicus River, Alexander led a daring cavalry charge, plunging into the fray at the very front lines, risking everything to break the Persian ranks. He narrowly escaped death, struck by enemy weapons, but his courage inspired his troops to fight harder, turning the tide and securing a hard-fought victory. The western coast of Asia Minor, once Persian stronghold, fell to Alexander's relentless advance, city after city opening its gates to him. At Issus, Alexander faced King Darius III's massive army, outnumbered but undaunted, determined to prove his destiny. Alexander's tactics forced Darius to flee, shattering Persian morale. Instead of pursuing the defeated king, Alexander turned his attention to the strategic city of Tyre, where he ordered a causeway built through the sea, a feat of engineering that stunned the ancient world. After 7 brutal months of siege, Alexander's forces stormed the city, capturing Tyre and sending a message to all who opposed him. In Egypt, he was welcomed as a liberator, greeted by crowds who saw him as a hero and a bringer of new hope. The Egyptians declared him a living god, crowning him pharaoh and honoring him in their temples and monuments. These victories only deepened Alexander's belief in his own destiny, convincing him that he was chosen for greatness. His campaign was a blend of audacity, brilliant strategy, and relentless ambition, pushing his men and himself to the very limits. Alexander was not just conquering lands, he was forging a new world, reshaping cultures and destinies wherever he went. With every victory he redrew the map, leaving a legacy that would echo through the ages. The road to the heart of Persia now lay open before him, beckoning him onward. The greatest battles and the greatest challenges were yet to come. Alexander's legend was only growing, his name whispered in awe across continents. The world watched in awe as a new era was being forged before their very eyes. After founding the legendary city of Alexandria, a beacon of learning and culture on the Mediterranean coast, Alexander set his sights on the heart of the Persian Empire. At Gaugamela in 331 BC, he faced the mighty Darius III in a battle that would decide the fate of Asia. Vastly outnumbered, Alexander relied on his unmatched military genius, using daring tactics and the discipline of his phalanx to shatter the Persian lines. Darius fled the field, and with his defeat, the centuries-old Persian Empire crumbled. Now, master of a vast new realm, Alexander pressed ever eastward, leading his army through the treacherous mountain passes of Afghanistan and into the mysterious lands of India. Driven by an insatiable desire to explore and conquer, he met King Porus at the Hydaspes river, where a brutal, rain-soaked battle raged. Porus's war elephants thundered across the muddy field, but Alexander's strategy prevailed. Impressed by Porus's courage and leadership, Alexander chose not to destroy him, but instead made him an ally, showing respect for a worthy adversary. But the relentless pace and endless battles had taken their toll. His men, exhausted, wounded, and longing for home, finally refused to march further when they reached the banks of the Hydaspes River. For the first time in his career, Alexander's unstoppable will was checked, not by a foreign enemy, but by the exhaustion and resistance of his own loyal army. Heartbroken and frustrated, he was forced to agree to turn back, ending his dream of reaching the farthest corners of the world. The conquest of the world had found its limit at the edge of the unknown. Alexander's ambition had carried him farther than any Greek before him, to the very edge of the known world. The journey home would test him and his men like never before, as they faced the unforgiving deserts and harsh conditions of the return. The dream of endless conquest was over, replaced by the harsh reality of survival and the memories of what might have been. Now, for Alexander and his battered army, survival itself would become the greatest challenge of all. The return journey was a nightmare. Alexander led his men through the deadly Gedrosian desert. Thousands died from thirst and exhaustion. He shared their hardships, refusing water when his men had none, earning their loyalty but at a terrible cost. More died in the desert than in all his battles. Back in Persia, Alexander found his empire in chaos, governors corrupt, order lost. He executed the worst offenders and adopted Persian customs, even organizing mass weddings to unite his followers. Many Macedonians resented these changes, feeling their king was becoming a foreigner. Tensions peaked, but Alexander's emotional appeals restored loyalty, at least for a time. The cracks in his empire, however, were beginning to show. The end of the journey was near. In 323 BC, at the very height of his power in the legendary city of Babylon, Alexander the Great stood as the master of a vast empire stretching from Greece to the edges of India. But after a lavish banquet, surrounded by his closest companions and generals, Alexander suddenly fell gravely ill. His fever worsened rapidly. Despite the desperate efforts of his physicians, his condition deteriorated over the next several days. The conqueror of the known world was dead, just shy of 33 years old, leaving his followers in shock and disbelief. The true cause of his death remains one of history's great mysteries. Was it poison, a sudden disease, or the exhaustion of endless campaigns? On his deathbed, as his generals anxiously gathered around, Alexander was asked who should inherit his vast empire. He reportedly whispered with his final breath, "To the strongest," leaving his legacy and his empire open to fierce contest. Without his guiding hand, the empire he built so swiftly fractured almost overnight. His ambitious generals, known as the Diadochi, fought bitterly for control, each seeking to carve out their own realm. Their rivalries plunged the ancient world into chaos and years of brutal warfare. The dream of a united world, once so close under Alexander, died with him, replaced by shattered hopes and broken alliances. Yet from the ashes of his empire, new kingdoms emerged: Ptolemaic Egypt, the Seleucid Empire, and others, each ruled by his former generals. This was the birth of the Hellenistic Age, a new era where Greek ideas, art, and science spread far beyond their homeland. Greek culture blended with the East, creating a vibrant fusion that would shape the world for centuries to come. Alexander's death marked the end of one era, but the dawn of another, one defined by cultural exchange and innovation. His influence, like a ripple across history, was just beginning to be felt. The world he shaped would never be the same, forever transformed by the legacy of Alexander the Great. Alexander's legacy was profound and enduring. He founded over 20 cities, spreading Greek culture from Egypt to India. Alexandria in Egypt became the intellectual heart of the ancient world. Greek became the language of trade and scholarship, shaping art, philosophy, and even religion. His military tactics are still studied today. But beyond the general, there is the myth, a symbol of ambition, brilliance, and contradiction. Alexander's story reminds us of the power of one individual to change history. He reshaped the world, leaving a mark that endures to this day. As he said, "There is nothing impossible to him who will try." His life challenges us to dream, to strive, and to learn from the giants of the past.